Elizabeth, I'm going to address this one to you. And it's something you and I have discussed with a lot of companies. And the question is, you mentioned all public companies have some sort of SOX requirement. I'm an EGC, so I don't need anything until the 5-year point. Can you explain what you meant?
I can. Let me make sure I got off mute. So yes, that is one of the greatest misconceptions out there. Companies are currently in emerging growth company status. Very often feel like there aren't any requirements until they roll out of it, right? Until their external auditors have to actually issue an opinion on their financial statements. What we know though, is if you go all the way back to the beginning, we talked about it already today. So the moment you go effective in that first, your first statement, you have to be able to say that the first S1, there we go, that's what I'm trying to say. The first S1, you have to disclose your known material weaknesses. In order to disclose known material weaknesses, you really need to have a concept of what your control environment looks like, what your structure is. Then you roll straight out of that into the first Qs once you go effective, right? So with your first Qs, you have to do the 302 and the 906 certification. Again, the CEO and the CFO have to say, I am not aware of any instance of material weakness. My controls are functioning as intended. From there, shortly thereafter, you're going to roll into your first management's assessment, which is 404A. So 404A is going to be included in item 9A of your 10K. And that is where you very specifically have to lay out, this is the control framework I use. I use COSO 2013. My controls are designed and operating effectively. We're digging into further detail with every subsequent filing. And at the end of the day, you have to have information to support that, right? So as management, if I say my controls are designed and operating effectively, I've got to be able to back that up. You don't want the SEC to come calling, but if they do, you need to be able to produce the support. Otherwise, all those implications around the criminal penalties and the fines that we discussed earlier, those start coming into play. So absolutely having your external auditors issue an opinion on your financial statements, that's a big deal, but there's a whole lot of work that happens before you get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you said earlier, we do a lot of education to companies, as we're talking to them, especially in that pre-IPO mode. And recently, I believe you mentioned this, but the companies who are a result of a de-SPAC, their time frame is actually sped up some because they're assuming this really the continuation of the SPAC. So if they've been around for a while, and depending on where they're at in filing their 10Ks and the overall life cycle, right, it condenses, right. So for those of you who have become public as part of that de-SPACing process, keep that in mind. And if you want to discuss that more, we'd love to have that conversation with you.